This is Gemara Bava Basra Daf Chof Gimel, and we pick it up on the bottom of Chav Beis Amid Beis at the Mishnah. Teaches the Mishnah Marchikin as Asulam min Hashoivach. One has to distance the Sulam, the ladder, min Hashoivach from the kitchen coop, from the chicken coop, the dovecote. Arba amos kadesh tikbat hanamiya. What's the reason? So Namiya should not be able to climb up the ladder and jump into the chicken coop. Ve'es ha'koisel min ha'mazlicha, and you have to distance the koisel, the wall, min ha'mazlicha, from the gutter of your friend's house, as well the same amount. Alad amos kadesh zoikev as hasulam, so that when your neighbor wants to climb up and clean out his gutters, he has the necessary space to put up his ladder. So areas, again, continuing the same theme, areas you have to distance one from the next. Says the Gemara, Lema Masnisan, let us say the Mishnah is not like Rav Yosi. Rav Yosi Amar. Rav Yosi says, no, everyone does their own thing and they don't have to distance themselves at all, even though it could potentially be close to the neighboring field. Seemingly, he's saying not like the Mishnah. Answers the Gemara, no, Afilu Tamer Rav Yosi. Ha'amar Rav Ashi, Kavina Be Rav Kahana, Have Amar Moidi Rav Yosi. Begire Didei, with one's own arrows, meaning when it's direct damage. Then Rav Yosi is maskim achanami. So too, in our case, you have to move away the ladder. Why? Because sometimes as you're placing the ladder, yasvi bechor v'kafsa, as you're placing it there, the bechor will go and it will jump, and it will jump into some sort of little animal, will go in directly as you're standing up the ladder. And because of that, it's called girei didei, one's own actions, and Rav Yosi's maskim. Says the Gemara, but how is that called your action? Vagramahu. This is a mere grama. You didn't do it. You put something there that allowed this item to go up. How is that called girei didei? Your own arrow. So Amar Rav Tivi Bar Masla Zosa Meres, grama b'nizakin aser. Grama and damages is going to be aser. And that level, even Rav Yosi is going to be masking. If you look at the second to last Rashi points out, even according to Mandam Rabbi Kama, still it's you're not able to do it. Meaning, Rashi's pointing out that even though it's a machlekes, whether you actually could bring this guy to Bezdin to collect on the damages that he did, but that does not mean we're going to allow him to do it. One is if it happened, do we allow him to collect in Bezdin? The next case is will we allow him to do it, and that's what Mishnah is saying. No, sells this Gemara story in the bottom of Chabez Hani Tali. If you had these small date palms, the have asi omna v'yasi tutayu. The bloodletters would come and sit next to these trees while they let blood. Asu v'arvi achli, and what happened? Asu arvi achli dama. Now, different animals that ate dam would come. The salki abe tali umasi tamara, and the blood would attract them, and then they would go up the palm tree and they would ruin the dates. So Amrlu Rav Yosef said to these bloodletters, Afiku li korkor me'acha. Get rid of these korkor, get rid of this crowing, meaning you guys move so that this bird does not come and destroy my trees. Amrle Abaye comes like Abaye 4 lines down. This is but gramu, but it's a grama. Amarle Achim Rav Tuvi Bar Masla Samaras Gramadi Zakin is ulcer. But in this case, it's different. This is a chazaka. So if there's a chazaka, how are you allowed to now protest? Amarav Nachman Amarav Ravua Ein Chazakin Nizakin. There's no such thing by damages of chazaka, even if they've been doing it. If it's damaging you, you're allowed to protest. Itmar, the Vlav Itmar, Allah says, Amari Amar, Bakotri, Rav Zid Amar, Beis Hakisei. The Amari said, we're talking about smoke, Rav Zid talking about Beis Hakisei. But if there's a chazak, it seems like we are masking. Amar Lei, Hani lididi danini daite kikutre besakisi dami. He said, the discomfort that these birds have to me is like a besakisi, is like smoke, meaning it's directly harming me, and therefore it's a higher level, meaning where we're differentiating is the Eina Chanami. Not always can you fight against a chazaka, but when it's something that harms the person, like smoke, like a bathroom, you could be more complaining. So to over here, he said to me, having these birds crowing, it is the same thing. And we continue with the Mishnah, about 12 lines down, Chav Gimel Amud Aleph, says the Gemara, Mishnah, excuse me. You have to distance this dovecote from the city. You only let him make this dovecote inside your field unless you have 50 amos chol ruach each direction of your field. If it's a field that is 4 core large, 1 core in each direction, Malay sheger hayina, that's as far as the yoina could fly in 1 sheger. In 1 uninterrupted flight is a 4 core. So says Rav Yehuda, if that's how big your field is, that's okay. But if he bought the shaivach from the previous owner, even if the whole field is only a quarter of a kav, you're allowed to keep it there once the dovecote was already there. So says the Gemara, it sounds like from this Mishnah, we have a machlekes, how far could the yaina fly? It sounds like the Tanakh says chamisha mama. And Rav Yehuda says a core in each direction. Says the Gemara, chamisha mama, v'sulai. Are you telling me that this yaina could only travel chamisha mama? V'remini, I'll ask you a steer in parsing this from the yaina. Now let us put out traps. Unless you're 30 ris, which is 8,000 amos. Clearly, the yaina flies a lot more than chamishim amma. Amar Abaya Mesha Chayetuv. Of course, says Abaya, they fly much more. Ukreisayu b'chamishim amasa malya, but their stomachs are full from 50 amos, and afterwards they begin eating. Therefore, if it's within 50 amos of one's field, then it's not going to go into the neighbor's field to eat, because for those 50 amos it's full, and then it can come back and eat. But of course it flies much further. Says Meshat Shleishim Ris. They really fly 30 ris for sulai. Even more than that, even 100 mil. Says the Gemara, first can't put on a neck because they fly even more. Rav Yosef Amar B'Yishav, says Rav Yosef Karamim, dealing with vineyards. Rav Amar B'Yishav, and we're dealing with shayvachim, with dovecotes, that we're flying from vineyard to vineyard, or from one shayvach to the next, then it can fly much more. But when there's no other vineyards and there's no other shayvachs, then you could fly even more. Says the Gemara, mishum shayvach gufayu. So says the Gemara, what about the shayvach itself? Why shouldn't that be enough of a reason that you're not able to put out these traps because there's a shayvach? Why does the Brisa say that it's 100 mil? Answers Gemara, by saying with the Devi, by saying with the Kanani, by saying with the Hefker, 3 different reasons why the shayvach itself will not be a reason to forbid spreading the traps, and it's only because of the distance from where the Yaina is. And we continue, Rav Yehuda Omer, base our boss course. Says Rav Yehuda that you have to put up your shayvach in the middle of 4 core, and that's the distance that is needed in the field so that the bird could have its necessary area to fly around, etc. So Amar Rabba Vitim Rav Zvid, so he said, we learn from here, Tayanin l'loikeach v'tayanin l'yoyish. Says Rabba and Rav Zvid, we're about 15 lines to the bottom, right after the 2 dots. You know, we see from here that Bezdin creates a taina for one who buys and for a yoirish. Yoirish, where the fact that Bezdin does such for an inheritor, tanina is a mishnah. Misham Yerusha. Someone claims the property due to Yerusha, ina itzarech taina. Then there's no taina at all because Bezdin does it for him. So why are you telling me from our Mishnah we learn out that Bezdin is Tainina for a Yerush? We see this already in a different Mishnah. Loikeach it's Strichel. He says, Loikeach Nami Tainina. We have a different Mishnah that says, Loikeach Chatzor Bazizin V'Kutrois. Someone purchases a Chatzor which has ledges and balconies that go into a public property. Harezu B'Chazkasai. He has a Chazaka, meaning Bezdin creates the Taina for him. So we see that both in the case of a Yerush and in the case of Loikeach, Bezdin creates the Taina for him. So why are you teaching me, Rav Papa, V'Temer Rav Zved, that is the Chiddush of the Mishnah? Answers the Gemara, Sricha. No, we needed a Mishnah to teach us. Why? Diashmina Hasam of the Hot, Hasam Gabi Rishas Rabim, Deimar Kainis Shalayhu. In the case of Rishas Rabim, I would have said that the previous owner could have said, it could have been that he made the wall into his own property. Inami achulu ben Rabim, or maybe Rabim was meichel him, and therefore there's no way for him to know what's going on without the Bezdin being tining for him. Gabe, maybe not. In our case, maybe in our case, because it's a yachid, therefore maybe the previous owner was mefayisim. Maybe it was meichel. But again, there would be no taina. Maybe we would not taina for them. Sricha. So there's always these back reasons why maybe we shouldn't create a taina, because maybe he had his own deal created that he was meichel or he was mefayes. So you wouldn't necessarily know the din. So says the Gemara, there's an additional chiddush to learn out from our Mishnah that Bezdin creates a taina both for the Lokeach and the Yeresh, even in our case. Hareyu b'chazkasai, we said that our shaivach, this area for the doves, has a chazaka. I asked the Gemara 3 lines to the bottom. As we saw, as we saw at the top of Amud Aleph, that there are times where the damage is apparent, that there is chazaka even for these items. And we continue moving over to Chav Gimel Amud Beis with another Mishnah. Nipola nimzab zecha mishemama hareu shabala shayvach. If a very small a dove is found, Rashi says a geizel is found within 50 amos. What's that Allah? Hareu shabala shayvach. It goes back to the one who has the dove, the house for the doves there. Chot b'chabisha mama hareu might whoever finds it. Nimza bein shtei shayvachs. Let's say we have two different areas that the doves hang out in, and between the two of them you find a dove. Karav lazeh shalai, karav lazeh shalai. It goes by whichever one it's closer to. Mechsa mechsa, shneim yachlaiku. Then we split it. Says the Gemara. We're talking about a case where we found an item. We're trying to figure out where does it go to. So of course, in the Mishnah, two different ideas are seen. One idea is Karev, that we saw on the end of the Mishnah, whichever it's closer to. Another idea is Raiv, whichever we could assume statistically belongs to him. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Chanina, Raiv v'Karev, a very famous statement, Holchen achar haraiv. If I have a majority and I have something that's closer, majority wins. V'afal gavin, even though deruba daraisa v'korva daraisa, says the Gemara, they're both really dinim daraisa. Afilu hachi ruba adif lamaisa. The Raiv takes precedence, says Rav Chanina. Masa Rav Zeira, I asked Rav Zeira, what do you mean by the deposits? Vayir akrev el chalal. Sounds like we're going to go with it sounds like whatever is closer. Sounds like Karov is winning. Says the Gemara, Pitaleka means there's no other area that's going to be, no other city that's going to have a Raiv due to its size. Says the Gemara, go after the rave of the world. Says the Gemara, B'Yeshevas being a harem, so there's no rave of the world because there's nothing in proximity. Says the Gemara, okay, Tanan, another kasha. And of course, this is why this comes up from the raya from our Mishnah. And our Mishnah said, if you have this young dove that's found in 50 amos, Hareu Shabala Shayvach, then it goes to owner of the dove coat. If It sounds like even though there's another one that's larger, so Rav statistically should say it should go to the other one. No, we go to this one because of Karaiv. What do you mean? Rav Chanina said Rav wins. Says Mar b'deleka. He says Mar 1 second. He must say for the sefer says Chutz mi'chamisha mama. Hareu shal ma'itza. It goes to one who found it. Viva deleka. If there's no other dovko there, vade me'ahu nafal. Of course it came from this one, so why could the finder keep it? Answers the Gemara, Hacham Mayaskina, you know what's going on over here. Bimidada. Talking about a case where the dove hopped. And therefore, says the Gemara, Da'amar Rav Ukva Bar Chama, call Hamidada, Eina Midada Yeser Mino. And anytime the dove hops, it's not going to hop more than 50 amais. And therefore, if it's more than 50 amais, it's not going to go to that dove code. And that's the reason why. That's the reason why the finder could keep it. Again, and when we say midada, Rashi explains, pshat is that it's too young, this dove, to fly. And therefore, excuse me, the kasha, one second. The kasha was that we're talking about, even though it seems that there's a larger shayvach in the vicinity, it goes to this one that's within 50 amos. The question is, why is that true? Why doesn't it go to the right? That was the kasha. The Gemara is answering because it's midada, it's this young dove. Therefore, it's not just Roy versus Karev. It must be it came for the one that's within 50 amos because it couldn't have gone farther. So therefore, that's the reason why it was not a kasha in Rav Chanina. Boy, Rav Yirmiyah, one last kasha, ragloi achas b'teich no nama of ragloi achas chutz me no nama mahu. What do we say if one of the legs are within 50 amos and one are not? It's literally smack in middle. Could the finder keep it? Says the Gemara of Al-Dav, Ku'al Rav Yirmiyah Bei Midrasha. They threw Rav Yirmiyah out of the base medrash for this kasha. This is a little bit absurd. As Rashi says, Sheyamatriach Aleim, he was asking these crazy cases, just too much. And we'll pick it up from here, continuing Yoroi V'Karov, B'siyata Dishmaya.